The unspeakable horrors of the Combine Empire rippled across the whole of Earth as entire regions were tainted by their egregious actions. Nova Prospekt became the home of the disturbing stalker mutilation process, and the use of biological weapons in headcrab shell bombardments transformed the Resistance town of Ravenholm into an actual nightmare. These were just two regions with tragic stories. In the Outlands, however, there was one more. An abandoned mine turned Resistance outpost that would become one of the most important regions in Resistance history. How was this mine connected to White Forest? What actually happened there? And why was this region so important to the G-Man and his employers? In this video, we explore the lore, story, and tragic horrors of Victory Mine. Way before the Combine's invasion, and way out in a region now known as the Outlands, a small community lived in the village of White Forest. While it has not yet been confirmed where the Outlands actually is, it could be speculated that before the invasion, this place was either the region of the Carpathian Mountains or the Ural Mountains, due to the Cyrillic script on the signposts, their dense forests and mountain terrain, and the scattered industrial sites across the region, one of which was an abandoned Cold War base. The village was located many miles away from the nearest city, and to survive, they had to be mostly self-sufficient. However, they were also situated close to a cave system that was developed into a mine. From the Russian signage constructed across the mine, they called it Shakhta Pobedi. I probably butchered that. Or in English, Victory Mine. Underneath some of the wall decorations, a message also celebrated a 50th anniversary. Whether this was from the creation of the mine, or whether the mine was created after the 50th year of an event, is unknown. Over the years, the mine became a great place of employment for the locals. Miles and miles of sprawling shafts allowed the miners to extract coal and other materials from the cave system. As they expanded further in, support beams were constructed and new tunnels were erected. Hoppers collected this coal and it was dumped in large quantities into minecarts, which were then pushed along on the rails out into the open to be loaded onto trains. From here, the collected materials were then sent out into the world to be used or sold. Victory Mine had two main entrances. The first was through Shaft 1. This area offered a stunning view of the local cities and a close look at the train system that passed by. Shaft 1 led directly towards a communication center in which those stationed here interacted with the local region. The second entrance was accessed just off of the local highway, connected to the White Forest village. A security terminal also blocked off access to any who were not permitted on site. Within the mine itself, a central silo was constructed with an elevator system that reached at the very bottom of the cave. This system allowed access to the major shafts and the smaller systems within. To keep the mine and the workers functioning, generators were utilized to open and close passageways, to keep the elevators functioning and to keep the lights on. It was a simple operation that had been thought out pretty well. For the most part, this was just a regular mine that provided work for the local population. However, when the Combine invaded, everything changed. After the brutal 7-hour war and the subsequent collection of humanity into Combine-controlled settlements, the people of White Forest were relocated. As for Victory Mine, it was abandoned. The years of inactivity and a lack of maintenance of the support structures led to the collapse of several tunnels and shafts, leaving large portions of the mine inaccessible. Yet, with the Combine also came the antlion species, and they settled in this region to build their nest deep underground in a cave system local to Victory Mine. While the majority of humanity accepted their fate and stopped their fight, there were a few others who did not give up. As a part of the secret resistance of humanity, Dr. Arne Magnusson, along with a small group of trusted humans and Vortigaunt, escaped their captivity and made their way north towards the Outlands. Arne had worked for Black Mesa during the incident that had essentially brought the Combine to Earth. He also knew that the Black Mesa Research Corporation had purchased the old Cold War base in the White Forest region, and he believed it would be the perfect place to set up a resistance base to work on technology to beat the Combine. Having established the White Forest Resistance Base in the Cold War bunker, rebels were sent out to source other locations in the Outlands. This area was just close enough to City 17 to travel between and far enough away for the Resistance fighters to avoid Combine detection. Upon the discovery of the abandoned Victory Mine, they decided that this area was also perfect for them for many reasons. The use of generators to power the mine removed any fear of detection. It also gave them the ability to open and close access to regions of the deeper parts of the mine shafts. They became aware of the antline colony below, but at this point, they encompassed just a small region of the cave system. The view of City 17 and the ability to see the coming and goings of Combine trains from this first entrance to Victory Mine meant that scouts could be placed in specific spots to report back to White Forest. Another view of a bridge that led directly north also gave them the chance to warn other outposts of Combine activity if they were increasing in number or getting too close. To pass on the information sourced by their scouts, the communication center was used to reach out to White Forest and quite possibly the other bases across the wasteland. It was also in this communication center that the rebels stationed here were joined by Noam Chomsky, the best companion anyone could ask for. To utilize the whole of the Victory Mine region, the area was split into 4 zones. The highway outpost allowed easy access from Victory Mine to the White Forest village, and thus the White Forest base. While this area was important, a stream of headcrab zombies also ventured and pooled into the toxic waste below. To pass the time, some rebels here would drink beer and drop grenades just to see how many zombies they could take out. On the other end of Victory Mine, the communication center offered access to the view of City 17, the train bridge, and further down, an elevator system directly into the mine, protected by a security gate. Within the mine, the central silo gave the rebels access to the deepest and furthest regions. It was in this open area that tunnels 12, 24, and 36 could be accessed. The issue, however, was the 4th area. While Victory Mine was perfect for scouting, storing equipment, communicating with other bases, and housing resistance members, the antline colony within the deeper cave system expanded their reach immensely. Over their years of occupation in the mine, the resistance members did their best to avoid interaction with the territorial creatures. The antlines at first claimed the deepest parts of the cave system, but their need to expand pushed them into the lower parts of the mine itself. Several breaches formed into the mine shafts as the antline workers used their corrosive acid spit to break down walls. The rebels were told by the Vortigaunt to avoid the vulnerable antline grubs, the children of the creatures. If they did this, they would not anger the antline and reduce any increased aggression. Of course, having expanded, there were unfortunate humans who found themselves trapped as they navigated the shafts and met their end as they were pulled deeper into the nest to be trapped and fed on. To reduce the spread the best they could, the rebels shut down generators and blocked off access to regions of Victory Mine. The central silo was incredibly important to them, and the rebels did their best to protect it. However, even at the base of the elevator, the antlion had created one of their most protected areas, the home of their larvae. This meant that if anyone ventured down to the bottom, it was almost a certain death at the pincers of the antlion guardian. In this period, these dangers were just about manageable, but the rebels took every precaution they could to stay safe. With plenty of weapons, ammo, and healing solution, they also secured Combine turrets and reprogrammed them to target their enemies, those being antlions, headcrabs, and the Combine if they discovered them. To further ensure their security, Resistance technicians also installed antlion sensors on tunnels 12, 24, and 36 with a 3-light system. If one light activated, there was a small amount of antlions that had made their way to the specified tunnel. If 3 lights activated, there were a lot. All the rebels had to do was place a turret and aim it at the specific tunnel if a light activated. At one point, the antlions did breach the silo, and to deal with this, another antlion sensor was installed. Still, for the most part, the antlion mostly stayed in the deeper parts of the mine as they cared for their own and expanded. As life went on in the Outlands, over in the White Forest base, Arnie Magnusson and his team worked on a rocket that they planned to use to collapse a super portal if the Combine attempted to generate one to send through reinforcements. In Victory Mine, the rebels continued to make note of Combine activities, reported it to White Forest, and pushed back any attempt the antlion made to further their reach into the mine shafts. Meanwhile, in City 17, the actions of the Resistance triggered a full-on uprising as they took to the streets to claim back their world. Dr. Gordon Freeman's actions later led to the destabilization of the Citadel, the headquarters of the Combine. Because of this, the alien empire lost access to their overworld. They did, however, recover information from a transmission of another Resistance member, Judith Mossman, and discovered information about White Forest. In an attempt to regroup and to take down a Resistance base, they made their way north. Victory Mine later encountered their first assault as headcrab shells of all varieties were launched into the claustrophobic tunnels. The rebels and refugees from City 17 were overwhelmed and did attempt to fight back, but their efforts were futile. These mine shafts and tunnels slowly filled with normal, slow, and poison zombies. Additionally, dropships released a container with a unit of Combine soldiers into what was once the staging area of the mine below. Prepared for antlion interference, they set up a thumper to keep them at bay. They also killed 2 of the Resistance members down here. The Combine themselves used the antlion grubs for their healing qualities, and some quite likely ventured into the mine to kill antlions, Resistance members, and harvest grubs. However, the antlion had expanded really far, and the intrusion into their home was met with extreme hostility. For the units who remained by the thumper, they were protected from the standard antlion who did not like the vibrations, but not from the workers who could spit acid from a distance, and the influx of headcrabs and zombies from the infestation they had created. Above, one of the refugees looked down at the chaos in the staging area and panicked. He ran into an enclosed region and sealed the entrance behind him. Terrified within, he also barricaded the second doorway. As this refugee sat alone in a chair, trapped, he imagined all of the awful things that could happen to him. The Combine, headcrabs, zombies, or antlions could break through. So he reached for a shotgun and took a different way out. The Combine units who had pushed past the thumper and into the cave system were also taken down one by the antlions and headcrabs. One Combine unit attempted to hide in one of the Victory Mine hoppers, but met an awful fate. The tunnels and mines below soon filled with the bodies of those who had come here. Combine units became food, refugees were trapped inside of antlion-infested areas, and one even fell victim to a falling barricade. These people were perfect food for the antlions, and they were dragged deep into the nest below. Victory Mine had become an incredibly unsafe place. The tunnels and mine shafts turned into a graveyard. Meanwhile, in the silo, only 2 rebels remained, a soldier called Sheckley and a medic called Griggs. It is unknown if there was an evacuation during this horrific period, or if everyone within the mines itself had died. However, these 2 stood guard with their turrets over the 3 tunnels and the breach, bickering as they did. Griggs argued that he was not even supposed to be there. He may have arrived as a result of the event in City 17. These were just the horrors within the silo and mine. Shaft 1 near the communications center continued to fill with zombies and headcrabs. Noam Chomsky lay alone under a shelf, and the few rebels in the rail yard were attacked and massacred by Combine hunters. These themselves were on the hunt for Gordon Freeman and Alex Vance, who had stolen important information from the Combine. Finally, at the highway outpost, the Combine launched headcrab shells and watched as they took down the rebels. While the majority of the rebels were taken out by the headcrabs, few did attempt to drive away with a muscle car. Sadly, the bridge was unstable and they did not make it. It is not clear how they failed, but it is likely that the sniper the Combine set up was the cause. With control of this area, the Combine installed a terminal and a force field. Despite their initial success, they also fell to the headcrabs they had launched. On more of a sad and ironic note, it is likely that the rebels who sat in this chair and dropped grenades became what they taunted. In the silo, Griggs and Sheckley continued to watch over the tunnels with their final 2 turrets, held together with baling wire and duct tape. At this point, these 2 were the final living resistance members of Victory Mine, the last 2 humans alive in the region. Victory Mine had suffered greatly over a short period of time. The fall of City 17 had only made things worse, yet this fall was necessary for the resistance movement. To escape the city before its destruction, Gordon Freeman and Alex Vance had boarded a train and it crashed just outside of one of the entrances of the mine. It was here they discovered the corpses of headcrab zombies that had been fought off, and they also found many zombies who just wandered the region. Freeman and Vance used the communication center to contact White Forest, and they planned to make their way there. Noam Chomsky was also in attendance in this meeting, but he was just out of view. As the duo continued on, Alex was viciously attacked by one of the Combine hunters that had helped annihilate this region. After it left, Alex fell unconscious. Fortunately, a nearby Vortigaunt protected Alex's body from the antlion who sought to drag her back to their nest. This Vortigaunt, dubbed the Victory Mine Vortigaunt, knew how important Alex was to the future of this war with the Combine. He let out a call to his tribe and asked for their help. He picked up Alex, and with the Freeman, they ventured forward to a sheltered region in this base. The Vortigaunt knew Victory Mine well, and knew antlions even better, before they had arrived on Earth. They had farmed antlion for their larvae to enhance their connection to the Vortessence, their power source. After a failed use of an elevator, Gordon was separated from the Vortigaunt and Alex. Still, he ventured into the mine and fell into the silo from the roof of Tunnel 36. The arrival of Gordon, the presence of Combine forces, and the increased foot traffic had also led to the increased aggression of the antlion colony. With Gordon at their side and the two turrets, every tunnel and the breach lit up. Over several waves, Gordon, Griggs and Sheckley fought back the antlion to protect Alex and the Vortigaunt from danger. Luckily, not too long after, the Victory Mine Vortigaunt's tribe appeared. On their path, they stated that they had silenced and exhausted the immediate number of antlion, and eventually, the antlion assault stopped. To save Alex from the hunter's mortal wounds, Freeman was told that the Vortigaunt required larval extract from the antlion nest below, so he went off with the Victory Mine Vortigaunt to get it. Meanwhile, Griggs and Sheckley stayed within the silo to help protect the other Vortigaunt and Alex just in case more antlion appeared. Hours later, Gordon and the Vortigaunt returned with the extract and used it to perform a procedure to heal her. With the Vortigaunt distracted during this moment, the G-Man reached out to Gordon. This moment was significant as the G-Man had lost track of his employee over the past few days. The Vortigaunt interference had got in the way of his plans. Going forward, the G-Man would keep a close eye on his asset. Thanks to Alex's injury in Victory Mine, the G-Man had regained a sense of control. With Alex healed shortly after, the Vortigaunt informed the duo that there was a car they could use in another part of the outpost to reach White Forest. With the Victory Mine Vortigaunt, they entered the silo elevator for the final time and rode it to the surface to move on with their journey, as the Vortigaunt tribe below planned to go and hunt the Combine hunters. As for Griggs and Sheckley, their fate after this moment is unknown. Maybe they also went to hunt with the Vortigaunt, or they made their own way to White Forest. At the surface, the trio left the mineshaft and watched from the spot once used by scouts for the Resistance as a whole brigade of Combine units passed by on their way north towards White Forest. Alex and Gordon had to get there first. After the survival of a fight against antlions, they reached the highway outpost but were saddened to find it had been completely wiped out. However, the silver lining was that the Combine's forces had also been wiped out. As they worked together, Gordon traveled through this zombie-infested region, reached the car, they said goodbye to the Vortigaunt and went on their way to White Forest. Few people had survived this region, but thanks to the Vortigaunt, Griggs and Sheckley, Alex had. After this moment, Victory Mine was likely abandoned by human and Vortigaunt, left to the antlion. Once a workplace to a small village, Victory Mine became a place of hope for many Resistance members in a Combine-controlled Earth, only to later become their tomb. A place of horror within the claustrophobic mineshafts filled with headcrabs, zombies, and antlion. The saving grace was that the Combine units also fell to the very weapons they deployed. Many regions in the timeline have significant moments, but this one had many. The near-death encounter of Alex, the formation of a closer bond with the Vortigaunt, and most importantly, the place that the G-Man was able to track down and reconnect with Gordon after the Vortigaunt had severed their connection just after the Citadel had exploded. For all of the horrors that had occurred here, at least some good came from it. Oh man, I haven't made a Half-Life video in a while. I wanted to come back with one of my favourite locations. I feel like Victory Mine is often overlooked. The chapters run well, we explore a dark region, get jump scared by a hunter. I love the section in which we have to protect Alex and the Vortigaunt from the antlion waves while overhearing Griggs and Sheckley bickering, and the actual exploration of the antlion caves was brilliant. While there is not a set dialogue on the horrors of this place, Valve did an amazing job with environmental storytelling. I would say this place is almost as dark as Ravenholm. I love this region. While I've been putting together the videos over the past month or so, I've also been working on the next timeline. I've already covered the game before, but a sequel came out and we just got DLC for it. I've had a ton of requests to cover the extended timeline too. I won't say what it is just yet, but stay tuned for more information. Overall, it's great to be back to Half-Life and exploring this dark universe. I'd also say to expect more Doom videos. I've had a few suggestions asking for me to go through some of the codex entries, so I may give that a go. That was everything I wanted to say really. If you enjoyed this deep dive, then I'd love you to subscribe to the channel, like the video and comment what you thought of Victory Mine. If you didn't like the video, then dislike the video. Finally, I'd like to thank my gold tier patrons and channel members: Jonas, Lewis, Queen Arby, Fluffy the Dragon, Chicken Guy 791, Ruben Mendoza, Duke, Toadnut, Oren X, Azu, Karatana, AJ, Verona, Comfy, BG Games, Apravis, Arnis, Blaze of Glory, Cole Sherman, Yoli Rodriguez, Nabar, 501st Clone Boy, Drakey Phoenix, and Logan Scott. Did you enjoy the Victory Mine chapters? Did you struggle against the Antlion Guardian in the tunnels like I did? And what would you like me to cover next? Please let me know in the comments below. This is where our story ends. Check back soon for a new one.